This is the eCommerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. I would like to reintroduce the guest that I'm having on the show today. Welcome, Mr. Ohad Greenspan, now from Wandz.ai. Welcome, Ohad.
Hi, pleasure to be here again.
It's amazing to have you back on the podcast again. We had you as a guest on the podcast way back, episode 135, June 15th, 2022, when we were still an audio-only podcast, and we're now up to nearly 500 episodes. So 370, 360 or so episodes later, you're making a reappearance on the podcast. So I appreciate you sharing time with me today.
Of course. I thought, by the way, 3 years in a lifetime of a startup is, but for
Forever.
you, even more.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very impressive.
Thank you very much. And we talked about, back in that episode, we were talking about Nemogu, which was, at that time, you've pivoted now, and we'll talk about that. We'll get into that. But at that point, we were talking about customer intent-based e-commerce experience personalization. And basically, you guys at that time were taking a whole lot of signals based on behavior that customers were taking on e-commerce websites. And you were basically taking that and you were crunching the numbers and you were personalizing the experience based off of buyer intent, based on buyer psychology. Now, you've renamed your platform. It used to be called Nemogu, and now you call it Wandz.ai, Wandz.ai, and like a magic wand. And we're going to get into that. But take us back to when you first envisaged Nemogu to begin with. What was the vision behind the platform? For those that haven't seen that previous episode, what was the vision behind that? And has that vision changed with the introduction of Wandz, or has it just evolved?
Yeah, so very good question. So first, maybe let's go back to 2014 when Nemogu was invented or initially founded. So the idea there back then was to prevent any client-side distractions, let's call it, anything that can create a disruption for the end user and go somewhere else. So over the years, we started with all the coupon extensions and malware that injects advertisements that are obviously unwanted on the client side. What we discovered over the years, first, in order to do that, we had to collect a large amount of signals in order to understand what's unwanted and what's wanted, how to run transparently without compromising the experience, right? So we had to collect a lot of signals. And over the years, we became masters in client side. And over the years, what we understood is that as clients, our merchants are blind to what's going on the client side. So they design their website perfectly, but they're blind to what's going on, to many things that are going on the client side. Of course, they're aware of a lot, but there's like new like segments of data signals that they're blind to. So over time, we started sharing it with them. We started sharing the data from our JavaScript tag to their analytics, to their security, to their product tools, to their A/B testing, in order to do things. And we started collecting or holding this real-time data hub for ourselves initially. And then over time, we started thinking how to use it. During COVID, 2019?
Yeah, 2020 is really when it started kicking off.
Exactly. We acquired two companies, one that built a promotion engine that leveraged this data in order to give real-time promotions to visitors. And the second one provided email and SMS offline, off-session promotions. And the idea was to start building on top of the data hub that we created, start building personalization tools in order to engage the users after we removed all the distractions away, to build personalization tools to engage the visitors, to allow our merchants to engage the visitors. And then over the years, we understood that the value proposition and the vision that we have in mind are bigger than what Namogu was born with at the beginning. And we decided to not only expand the product, but also expand the name and the vision and everything. Sometimes it's very hard for a company to change its DNA, to change its because the market recognizes you in a certain way, and the clients and analysts and everyone, investors and everything. And we decided with the expanding the product also to expand the vision and also the message and also the name. We chose Wandz.ai, as you mentioned, because that's the magic wands that we provide our clients. And the vision of Wandz.ai is to, although of course it relies on the data that we collect, but the vision for the merchants, for our clients, is to transform their customer experience from static to adaptive. What does it mean? Let's say you go to whatever website, like Abercrombie and Fitch, one of our clients. You go to the website, and many things change, right? When you browse, you come with certain setup of the device, but it changes as well. For example, battery status, it changes over time, right? Speed, internet connection, suddenly extensions that are installed on your device, they show you things right while you browse. They give you offers, they give you coupons, they give you offers for buy now, pay later, things like that. So things happen on your device. Things happen in your journey, right? You browse product pages, you browse like jeans, and then you look at shoes. You browse 3 products in parallel, and then in many cases you open multiple tabs of the same site, and you browse multiple tabs in parallel. Things change in your affinity or preference, right? You look in certain colors, you look at certain brands on the website, etc., etc. But the website, all websites, by the way, today do not really understand, do not really capture what's going on. And of course, because of that, do not react to it, right? So the website remains the same static website as you landed. So things happen to you, but the website doesn't change. And this clash between these two, the dynamic nature of you on one hand and the static nature of the website on the other hand, creates a clash and leads to loss of many opportunities. I can give some interesting examples that we're doing with clients, but we understood that clients are missing all this data on the client side. They're missing all this layer of inference. We added to that also the predictive part, which we can discuss, and what we call the activation. So what we can do with the user. And the idea of all of that is to be able to give optimal experience at the end of the day to each and every visitor.
Wow, it's quite the evolution of the vision, that's for sure, but certainly built on the same foundation of
Yes.
Data collection, data aggregation, and then data action, and making sure that the customer experience is personalized. Now, if we were to compare and contrast what me as a website user would experience when I go to a website that was previously running Namogu and is now running Wandz, what would be the practical differences that I would notice or I would see as a visitor to a website that was running the old technology versus the new technology? What would be the practical differences I would notice?
Yes. So the first technology that we brought removes all the client-side distractions, but that's it, right? It makes the website clean from any client-side distractions. In other words, it makes the website appear as it was planned to, right? So
was
that's
intended to,
exactly. Now with Wandz, we added additional layers that allow you to take additional action on the user. For example, if you go to 100% of the websites today, 99.9% of the websites today, and you search for something, you click on the search bar, you browse, you go to certain products, and then you go to the search bar, you either get nothing, like when you click on the search bar, you either get no recommendations, or you get 5 terms that millions of people get, no matter what you did before, what you looked for, what you did in the past, etc., etc. You just get the same 5 recommendations that everyone gets, 5 suggestions that everyone gets, or nothing until you start typing. So once you start typing, usually 3 letters, let's say BLA, then you would get autocomplete suggestions for black something. But what about before the 3 letters? What if I click on the search? Why can't we provide relevant, highly contextually relevant suggestions to me, because I'm browsing, right? You know what I'm doing. And that's the first use case that we usually start with. We're leveraging the data collection that we're doing in real time, the real-time inference that we're doing on the session, in order to add the relevant keywords into your search bar. So it would be dramatic for you, instead of seeing nothing as a user, or seeing the 5 terms that are irrelevant to you, let's say refrigerators, microwaves, but you're interested in home decor, whatever. So the change for you would be dramatic to see relevant suggestions that are relevant to you. From experiences that we ran with customers, we've seen uplift in conversion and revenue of between 15% to 50% to this audience that are clicking on the search, and which is about 10 to 15% of the website visitors click on the search. For them, like 15 to 50% uplift in revenue or conversion. This is dramatic. And also, if we talk about, we care and our merchants care about, of course, about revenue and everything, but more about the experience of the user. So we allow users to find much faster products that they're interested in, right? Or categories or products or colors. So we're using this data collection, real-time inference, in order to enrich the search, to augment the search with adaptive capabilities. We call it adaptive search. So transforming the search from very like old school to something new, fresh, that changes the game. That's one example. We have many examples, by the way. If you want more, I can share.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Now, back when we were discussing Nemogu, I remember distinctly that you made a big point of saying, hey, we are not trying to be a search merch personalization platform. That's not what we are. We're not competing with Algolia. We're not competing with Nosto. We're not competing with these search merchant personalization platforms. And back then, in 2022, Nosto, I'm 99% sure they hadn't made a search acquisition yet. And so they were just a personalization platform. And what we've seen in the intervening 2.5 years is that search-only platforms have evolved to be merchandising and personalization platforms. Merchandising and personalization platforms have evolved to be search merchandising and personalization platforms. And there's been massive consolidation in our industry. And one of the reasons for that, from my perspective, is that every portion of a customer's journey through a website has to inform every other portion of a customer's journey through a website.
Agreed.
So it makes sense that, hey, I need to take into account, what are they searching for? What categories are they browsing? What products are they browsing? What filters are they applying? What products are they adding to their cart? Which products are they abandoning? Which products have they purchased? What does their historical transactional record look like? What products are they adding to a compare, like a product comparison? We need to be looking at every facet. Which page did they enter our website on? Was it through a paid ad? Was it through an organic result? Was it a product page, category page, homepage they landed on initially? We need to be looking at every facet of a way a customer interacts with our website and how they interact with other digital properties like emails and other things that they interact with. And so it makes sense that this industry, broadly called personalization, let's just put it under the umbrella of personalization. It makes sense that there would be consolidation, because you need every single interaction to inform every future interaction. But you went to great pains to say, we are not trying to be this. We are trying primarily to remove friction from the buying experience so that they are not interfered with. Plus, we are trying to make sure that we intercept, for example, exit intent, and we're trying to present the right customer with the right information so that they don't exit, or we minimize the chances that they leave our website without buying from us.
Exactly.
That's the goal. We want them to stay on the website long enough to get all the information they need and create an interesting engagement model so that they actually want to make a purchase.
Exactly.
Now, how has that original mission perhaps shifted, or is it the exact same mission and just different tooling with AI? How has your vision of this experience influence, let's call it that? How do we influence the experience of our customers and our visitors? Has that mission changed?
Yes. So very, I agree with everything you said. Great analysis. Our philosophy, by the way, to continue what you just said, our philosophy is the data should be democratized. So unlike other vendors in the market that provide search, A/B testing, personalization, we position ourselves as a kind of a middleware that's designed as a clear box, not just as a black box, right? As a clear box. And all the data that we collect is democratized. It's open, of course, with the approval of our merchants because they deploy us. So all the data that we collect, both all the data, all the events, the affinities, like if you click on a black shirt, or you click on, you have some event on the page, and of course the predictions, your predictions to buy or prediction to do something else, and audiences that you belong to. Everything we do is held with a data object that is accessible to everyone, both the merchant itself. So if they want to do something with their engineering, they can. If they want to use us for adaptive search, for adaptive promotions, for A/B testing, they can do it inside Wandz. But if they prefer, as you just said, if they prefer to use Nosto, Klaviyo, Dynamic Yield, whatever, any kind of a Monetate, A/B Tasty, whatever, Optimizely, they can. We don't care. We don't claim to be the best A/B testing vendor or to be the best, but we are the best middleware, client-side middleware that holds all the data, that have all these connectors that connect with all of them. And of course, we added all these personalization tools, layers ourselves, just not to be dependent on another vendor to do something. So we bring them also as part of the package. But our positioning is exactly as you said, to be like the middleware, the data, the hub, the real-time brain, let's call it, and heart that collects all the data and has the capability to fire it to different places in order to transform the experience to be adaptive. And that we're doing well. And we have many clients that use our personalization, but we have clients that use their own personalization or third parties personalization. We have clients that use our personalization, only the top layers, only to prove something or to do a POC. And with these results, they go to the engineering and they work on a long-term solution, and then they switch. They turn off ours and they turn on their engineerings, and that's totally fine with us. We don't want to own, as you said, we don't want to own search or to own personalization or to own A/B testing. We position ourselves as a middleware that lives on the client side, that has all the data and has all the connectors to the different tools in order to make a better experience.
And this seems like a fundamental pivot in some respects to the approach that you took under the Namogoo banner, because I would term, or I would describe the Namogoo approach as a reductionist approach. That's how I would describe it as an outsider. I don't work inside your company, but I look at that approach as a very clear scenario where you are actually trying to remove things from the UX and UI as opposed to add things to the UX and UI.
Yeah.
And now it feels, rather than being, it's probably less reductive and more additive in the new world of Wandz, meaning that through these integrations that you have, and I'd love to talk about the partnerships that you have and the out-of-the-box integrations that you have. Do you integrate with Algolia? Do you integrate with Nosto, etc.? And I'd love to better understand how you believe that your data layer, your data collection layer, your data interpolation layer, your data integration layer, your data interrogation layer with AI, how you feel, because, for example, I've had Nosto on the podcast. I've had a lot of search merchant personalization platforms on the podcast, and they would argue that they do some of these things. They would argue that they collect data, they track users, whether they're authenticated or not, that they track multiple facets of that user experience, their IP address, their browser type and iteration and version, that they capture similar data to what you do. And so I guess from my perspective, I would love to better understand how you believe you are a differentiated data hub versus some of the native data hubs that come with some of these personalization engines that are in the market.
Yes, so very good question. So first, many vendors collect data, and that's for sure. I think first, I think it starts with the mindset. Okay, is the mindset to use the data for myself, or is the mindset to democratize it and share it with everyone? So it's a matter of who you think about when you design something. So everything we do, we don't think about ourselves. We think about someone else that's going to use our data. And then because of that, we don't collect only the data that we think that would be relevant for us, like many others. We think about all the use cases, all the vendors, all the industries, everything that would be interesting in client-side data. So our data collection is very broad. That's one. We think about different layers of data that would be interesting for different vendors. For example, we start with what we call AI features. This is the raw data. Above that, affinity. Above that, events. Above that, predictive. Above that, audiences. So we design multiple layers because different vendors, different tools, different clients, merchants would be interested in different things. Our data collection is very broad, deep, wide. So that's one. Second, because we don't think about ourselves, we think about someone else, we invest a lot in how to push data to us, how to pull data from us. So all this connectivity, we invest a lot in it. So for example, we developed APIs that on the client side, you just need to give the key. You don't need to know the structure of the data object. You just need to give the key and you get back the value. So we invested a lot in easy connectivity, data pooling, in order to make it easy, to make it accessible easily. We have also in the data layer, one of our secret sauces is the predictive element. So we built the ability to create any prediction model, and that's above data, right? It's the ability to predict anything on the user behavior. For example, you can use one of our pre-built models for purchase, abandonment, reaching cart, subscribe to something, conduct a search, join loyalty, things like that. But at the same time, you can build your own model. Let's say we had a client that had like one action on the site called the Ask a Nurse, something that's not e-commerce, classic e-commerce. But because we built the infrastructure in a very generic way, you can use the model you can create a very, like in 1 minute, a prediction model if someone would have a chance to ask a nurse something or to make an appointment or whatever it may be. So we added this predictive element that allows you to predict many things about what the customer will do. And we combine all of them together using an audience builder. So you can very easily say, if someone had this and had an event Y and had affinity Z or Z, as you said, and predictive and is predicted to abandon and has this, combine them into audience researchers, whatever you want to call it, and then run an interaction or activation on them. So I think we are different from others. To go back to your question, we're different on the depth and breadth of the data, easiness of connectivity to pull and push data to us and from us without code. That's also one of our guidelines in the design, to be able to do everything I mentioned without a single line of code. So depth and breadth, connectivity, predictive element, and it's very easy to work with the tool. So we get a lot of good feedback from clients that find it very hard Even to launch a promotion like a pop-up, it takes them with other tools or with their engineering, sometimes 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, because they don't have the data. They need to go to this. They never need the project manager. They need to go to the product. Here, everything is within the same tool. So I think the holistic nature of Wandz is what makes the change.
And it feels, given all of those evolutions, shall we say, of your platform, it feels like your target customer may have changed slightly, or maybe the target customer that you work with you've got more than one cohort of customers that you would work with now. And by that, historically with Nemogu, you would have been working directly with merchants like 99% of the time. Maybe you had some out-of-the-box connectors with some other platforms, but the customer that was actually paying you for your tech was the merchant, right? But it feels like now that you potentially have a second or maybe even a third cohort of customers, which are these other technologies, these other platforms, right? Yes. Where you can form these technical partnerships where effectively you can help improve the performance of their underlying technology because you aggregate and collect and dissect, perhaps in some instances, more data, deeper data than they do. And so therefore, either you can augment their data collection efforts or replace it altogether and say, look, let's focus on the experiential part of what we do with the data. And let's let Wandz worry about the collection, aggregation, and segmentation of the data. And we just create the UX UI components that tap into that data and inform our experiences. So it feels like there is a greater opportunity for partnerships with the evolution of your technology, combined with who actually pays you for your technology also potentially changes. Correct. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, you're understanding great. So you're totally right. So actually, we saw something interesting. We saw that even our champion within the merchant also changed a little bit, because usually with Nemogu, we used to work primarily with the digital teams. So e-commerce, chief digital officer, sometimes marketing, but more the group that is in charge of conversion, the group that is in charge of making sure that the e-commerce journey is clean and optimized.
And so basically, if they have a CRO expert inside, whether it's an agency partner or whether it's an in-house resource, it's the CRO person that usually would own this capability.
Exactly. Now, because Wandz.ai is a middleware that allows you to create better experiences on the website, we find that our bigger champions on the merchant side is the product group, because we allow them to do that. We allow them to do this. Anything they dreamed about can now become feasible. So it allows them to create a better experience, better customer journey, and that's usually owned by the product in merchants. So they're in charge of the journey. So we did see an expansion, not saying replacement, but expansion into the product group. And from the product group, we saw that it leads to bring additional departments that we were less in touch with. For example, it can be marketing, because you can create pop-ups and promotions and interactions and messaging and copy and creative. So we suddenly starting to work with marketing as well. Technology, because we have a middleware with data that you can do things. We started to work with people that are working with accessibility. So for example, I'll give an example. Part of the data that we collect on the browser side is relevant to accessibility. So dark mode, dark colors, bright colors. Forced dark mode is like a configuration in the browser that if it's turned on, for some users, usually like let's say 0.5% or percent of the users, they can see the website black, like totally black. They cannot buy, they cannot see anything. So it brings the accessibility groups into the table. Site reliability, like SREs, IT, fraud sometimes, because the data can also be relevant to them. Bot traffic. So many signals that we make accessible are relevant to additional groups. So even inside the merchant, we see an expansion, which is makes our work more interesting even. And you're totally right. We did start getting reach outs from partners to improve what they do, to help them improve what they do. So initially, it was agencies
Yep.
that work with merchants, and they do like the CRO stuff, as you mentioned. They build experiences to them, they run campaigns, they do optimization, A/B testing, whatever, and they are looking for better ways to have better A/B testing, better experiences, better personalization, everything. So we started collaborating with a few agencies in different parts of the world that will use, instead of, as you said it right, instead of them investing in collecting now 300, 400, 500 data points, they can just focus on the experiential part, as you call it, on the service, on the business logic. So they use our data layer and then start everything from there. And some of them, by the way, even use our personalization layers because they need to use something. So we did start getting reach outs from them. We got some reach outs from fraud companies that are always looking for more data in order to predict fraud. Signals. Exactly. We have very good, strong partnerships with analytics companies. One of them is Content Square, for example, that provides session replay and journey analytics and everything, but they're missing many of our signals. So we are actually injecting our signals to them, for example, the forced dark mode, things like that. So they can show session recording for users with dark mode, for example. So again, we will not be an analytics player like Content Square or Adobe or Google or etc., but we have data that they don't. So we believe that 1 + 1 = 3, and it's better for us, it's better for them, it's better for the client, because together we can bring something holistic.
Sounds like you also need to explore a collaboration with Microsoft Clarity as well, because it feels like they're the type of platform that would benefit from your data set that they don't necessarily collect.
Agree. So if we sign a deal with them, the commission should
I get a commission.
Yeah.
And how about some of these other search merchant personalization platforms? Because as you say, if you are gathering broader, deeper, more holistic data, and you're doing more with it once you collect it, and you're segmenting it in new ways, you're dissecting it in new ways, you're pulling insights out of it in new ways, it feels like this is something that another tech provider, let's just say it's a Nosto for sake of argument, it feels like instead of them having to continue to develop and evolve their data capture layer and their data insights layer, and then linking that to their actions layer, it feels like that this could be an opportunity for them to effectively white label your technology such that it informs all of the experiential components that they deliver through the front end. And it feels like that would be, sure, you can share it with them in a high level way, meaning that they can connect to your APIs, they can pull in certain data points. But if for example, they wanted to customize the way in which your data is collected, and they wanted to customize the way in which you pull the insights out of your data specifically for use inside their platform, it feels like a deeper, more technical, direct integration. It feels like that would be an opportunity for you to expand, again, those avatars of customers that you're working with.
I totally agree. And again, here it's a matter of, again, every vendor can do anything, but it's a matter of focus. It's a matter of focus. So our focus is less product feed and the back end of the merchant, and which is usually their focus. So if I type in BLA, I want to get all the relevant products from the product feed, right? So
then the categories, the attributes,
and everything. So they're masters in pulling all the relevant inventory and show it to the user when they search. But our focus is more the end user and what he or she comes with, and the predictive part. For example, if I predict that you're going to abandon, maybe I want to show you something like show you X in the search. And if I think that you're going to buy for sure, maybe I will show you B. Our focus is less the merchant's inventory. It's more the end users and what happened to him or her and what's going to happen. And I think this collaboration can be a killer. I agree.
So we can think of your platform more as a behavioral analytics platform than a catalog-driven platform.
Exactly. It's more than behavior because lots of the signals that we collect are non-behavioral at all. For example, the dark mode, if you have what's your battery status. So it's not necessarily the behavior
of also environmental analytics.
Environmental and behavioral and everything, but our focus is the end user and his or her environment and what they're doing rather than the inventory of the merchant, as you said. You're totally right.
And what's next for you, say, over the next 6, 12, 18 months? How do you think that your technology will continue to evolve? What's high on your radar? Obviously, if you're working with brands like Abercrombie and Fitch, they're a global brand. They have slightly different requirements than maybe a small brand that doesn't have as many resources, a startup brand, things like that. What is high on your radar to continue to expand the capabilities of Wandz?
Yeah. So first, I can't tell you all the secrets.
Of course. I wouldn't expect you to, but maybe give us a teaser.
But if no one listens, I hope they do. So first, everything we do at the moment is available on web only. We haven't released our SDK for native apps, which we plan to do in the next few months for Android and then for iOS, is to expand. The first expansion, let's call it in terms of real estate, would go beyond web to native apps as well. And this would be like a big thing. I think partnerships will be a major effort, both technology partnerships, as we mentioned, with analytics, A/B testing, DXPs, CDPs,
commerce platforms like Jebit.
Exactly. So to expand the integrations with all these systems, to develop all these integrations with all these vendors. So this is the second. We plan to expand aggressively the predictive capabilities. So at the moment we have a few models that are embedded within the platform. We plan to invest a lot in the predictive element, the predictive AI elements that will allow us to predict new generation of things on the user. I think these are the three major, like I would say, efforts. And of course, go aggressive on the market and go to market. And once we work with clients, we get so many ideas of what can be done. So obviously it would lead to new things on the roadmap. But yeah, exciting times.
And how do you guys make your money in this new Wandz model? How do you guys charge your merchant clients, your technical partners, your agency partners? How do you guys make your money? Is it based on the interactions you believe that you save in terms of customers that, for example, maybe would abandon or maybe would exit the site or would have fewer items in their cart or whatever? How do you guys decide how you bill for effectively the enhanced data set that you provide to your merchants?
Yeah, so we have basically a hybrid model that our clients choose either to go by hit-based model, meaning different things would be like a hit. So it's per volume of usage. So for example, a page view is a hit. If you train your models, it's hits. If you call the models in real time, it's hits. Everything you call an API, it's hits. So hit-based model based on usage, site usage, let's call it. So that's a pay-as-you-go model. Or it can be like an annual SaaS model that you pay per volume. So bigger websites pay more than bigger businesses pay more than smaller businesses. But we kind of estimate what's the volume that you plan to have for the year, and that's your tier, and you pay by your tier. So either like a price that we agree on the beginning of the year, or as you go, like
consumption model.
Yeah,
makes complete sense. Typical SaaS world, especially when you get into enterprise SaaS, there's always a little bit of negotiation there. There's always a bit of a commercial negotiation to arrive at a place where you can be profitable, but your customers have something affordable that they can actually deploy and use at scale. So that makes complete sense. And so you are an enterprise product. And so people need to reach out. And that naturally leads me to my next question is, how are people best to get a hold of you? I'll drop your LinkedIn link into the show notes, as well as the new Wandz.ai website link into the show notes. But other than that, if people want to get a hold of you, merchants want to get a hold of you, if they want to talk about personalization, they want to talk about data, analytics, predictive analytics, AI, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
So I think, as you said, I think feel free to reach out to me like directly, Ohad at namogu.com or Wandz.ai, or website, or talk to our customers. I think we invest a lot in our customers, and we think that they are the best ambassadors of ours. So I think talk to them and get their opinion on us, and then find a way to us. But I think, reach out through the website.
You're available everywhere.
Everywhere. 24/7.
I love it. I love it. And you mentioned that you were based in the UK just now. I was going to say, because I know you're normally based in Israel, but I was looking behind you and I was like, that looks a little bit gray and dark and dreary for Israel.
It's not like a Zoom background.
It's the real background, but you're based in the UK at the moment, meeting with clients, looking at new clients, looking at expanding your market into the UK. And I'm guessing that the US market is high on your radar as well.
Yes, we are primarily focusing on Europe and US. That's our main markets. But on the roadmap, the plan is to expand to Asia as well, Latin America. So but these are our main markets, US and Europe at the moment.
Love it. Love it. Now, we've had a fantastic conversation. We're at nearly time here. Now, as we come down to the end of our time together, this is where I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It can be personal or professional. Mr. Ohad Greenspan from now Wandz.ai. What is your question for me today?
Wow. Can it be personal or
personal or professional?
What's the story behind your t-shirt?
This data t-shirt is from Lexer, which is a CDP, and it's one of their pieces of merch. And they're a very interesting technology. The CDP space is such a crowded space now. It didn't used to be, but now it's massively crowded. And these guys do a pretty incredible job, and they've got some unique new merchandising technology for retailers that bridges the gap between physical and online merchandising. And they're capturing data from point of sale. They're capturing data from physical spaces. They're capturing data from the website, and they're putting that together across the breadth of their CDP. And they've been around for a long time, so they're doing some pretty cool stuff. And I was very grateful that they sent me this cool looks like a play on AC/DC.
Hey, it's AC/DC, exactly. I love it.
Yeah, they're very clever. They're a very clever company doing some very clever things in the CDP space. And first party data is it's a big deal, as you're playing in the first party data space and zero party data space, and so are they. And it's something that I think more retailers are getting religion about, especially obviously there's been a stay of execution for third party cookies for now, but they will eventually go away and they will eventually have to be replaced with something else. But it's a very interesting space to play, I think, in trying to figure out how can we capture behavioral data, environmental data, but also explicit action data as an authenticated customer. How can I start building up this vision of a customer profile that is very highly enriched? And then how can I start taking into account things like cost to service? What is a customer's return rates? What is a customer's contact us rate per purchase, whether it be through live chat, whether it be through phone, whether it be through email and help desk? So I think taking into account as many of these data points as possible, like what does it cost us to serve this customer? Because it's not good enough to just look at their CLV through the lens of revenue. It also, you have to look at it through net profitability per customer. And that means if you're going to look at it through that lens, you got to look through acquisition costs. What channel did we acquire them through? You got to look at so many other factors when you look at the net profitability of a customer. Because if you purely look at it through the lens of revenue, two customers might look identical, but your cost to acquire and service them can be radically different.
I agree. Very interesting. Cool.
So it's a super interesting space for them as well. Ohad, this has been a fantastic conversation yet again. Look forward to speaking with you again sometime in the next maybe 6, 12, 18 months and see how Wandz has developed over that time. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.